When I was 16 years old and I got my driver's permit just to practice driving, I checked off the organ donor box. No brainer, no problem. I want to support the system. When I got my full license, checked the box. I renewed my license, checked the box. The last time, though, I didn't check the box because someone convinced me. I thought it was an urban legend, but they were very convincing that they will fail to resuscitate you if you have that checked off on your driver's license. I thought it was nonsense, but I erred on the side of caution. But apparently a new report says there might be some truth to that. Josh?
So HHS is currently investigating this, and RFK Jr. actually came out and made some public statements on it. In his own words, he referred to this as, quote, horrifying. And basically what happened was they launched an investigation. They looked at 351 cases. Among those 351 cases, 29%, the individual who would have had their organs harvested, were still showing some sign of life. And in one particular case, the individual, they don't detail it too much, but they say the individual showed signs of life and signs of discomfort. I don't know.
Imagine so.
But the doctor did not go through with the full procedure after realizing something was not quite right with it.
Right, you read the report, it says, potential donor was yelling, please stop, please stop. We didn't know what to do, so we stopped temporarily to reassess. But okay, so just to confirm, none of the people, like these 29%, who showed signs of life, none of their organs were actually harvested, right? Like,
so this is the nuance with this. In the study, none of them were killed. But the problem they identified was this. The problem they identified was that there were problems they have in the checks on whether or not a person is dead. And so there's a flawed system they're using to actually see if the person is like dead, you know?
Well, I guess the question would be like, because you would still want the organs to be as viable as possible in the event of the person being dead. So I guess they would have to be brain dead.
Well, that's the issue. A lot of times when they do organ transplants, right? When they get the donor, the individual is not fully dead. Usually they want people who are brain dead. And so they have to have no signs of any cognitive, activity, basically.
And the reason why, on that note, by the way, is because there's an extremely short window of time in between when you can remove someone from life support, right? And then they have to pass away within a typical short specified amount of time before their organs basically go bad due to lack of oxygen, right? And that is about a 60-minute time frame in most cases. So these tests have to be performed in that window.
And so this is the concern. So the problems HHS identified was that there was, as you were warned about by your friend, sometimes they may not make the proper attempts to actually revive a person. Oftentimes, 29% apparently, or in that area, they don't do the proper test to actually verify whether the person is actually brain dead. I mean, even then, there are cases where people have been deemed brain dead and made recovery, even though you could say it's a very rare thing. And so, I think there are really legitimate concerns with this. RFK Jr., they're also talking now about prosecuting a crime, alleged crime, where an individual was apparently killed for this. The case was actually dropped under the previous administration. They're going to revive the case, actually. But RFK Jr. is saying they're actually going to be holding people accountable for this.
So let me ask you, so you said they looked at 351 cases and 29% of those said that there were signs of life.
Some sign of maybe there was something not quite right.
Okay, so just there was an indication that there might have been something amiss. Were these why were these 351 cases selected, do you know?
I don't know why they selected those 351. What they did say, though, is that they identified the problems more in like rural hospitals, and most of them involved people who were like drug overdoses. And I mean, I don't know, maybe there's financial interest, maybe there's corruption, maybe you're dealing with a drug overdose that looks like they're dead, but they're not really dead. So we don't really know the details just yet.
Well, you say financial interest, but I mean, like, if they're going through the official channels in the system, I mean, what would that be, like a backroom deal?
Well, so what RFK Jr. is pointing to is the OPO, which is the Organ Procurement Organization. And he wants to have them further investigated, especially because this, the nature of this whole thing is pretty shocking. The entire industry, or you could call it industry or call it the medical industry, but the industry around organ transplants in the United States, as you mentioned, it's a voluntary thing. The idea is, hey, I'm dead. Why not have my organs save somebody else's life? And for Americans, I mean, I didn't do it because my dad told me not to do it for the same reason your friend did. My dad said, they might not make the proper efforts to revive you. And maybe that's a bit of distrust. But what's important is this. If trust is broken in the system, a lot more people will start saying that. And so for the sake of maintaining the ability to even have organ imagine someone you love gets heart failure, or they need a liver, kidney transplant or something like that, something to save their lives. And people stop signing up for this because they hear that, hey, they might kill you for it.
But on the flip side, I will say this report actually, like the headlines kind of give you some like a real shock, right, when you first read them. But if it's out of 351 cases, like let's say 30, you said 29, let's say just say 30 for easy numbers, showed signs of life. So that's like, let's just say 110 cases. But you say none of those actually had their organs harvested because like they almost got to that point, but they said, hey, like let's not actually do it. To me, that seems like the system is working.
It is. But the argument you could use is this, is they identified problems in how the assessments were made. And if there's problems in how the assessments are made, it means there's a loophole. And we don't know if some of these people, I mean, the dead don't talk, right? So we don't really know if some of these people could have been saved or not.
The dead don't talk. Don't tell that to the ghosts who live in my attic. All right, moving along to a different Maha update. The only thing I have written here is Mexican Coke.
There's a few different varieties of that. But the one we're talking about today is Coca-Cola. Good old Coca-Cola. And Pepsi, actually. Anybody who's been to a quality taco stand knows that you can buy good, high-quality Coca-Cola with real cane sugar, which is different from, of course, the one we get here where they sell us high-fructose corn syrup. And interestingly, I've never been a fan of high-fructose corn syrup.
I'm not a fan of sugar. Go ahead.
Do you know the history on that? How that actually made its way into all of our drinks, right?
I know a bit of it, but you tell me.
Don't hurt
so
the
back in the
poor
1970s
agricultural industry.
Look at this man
sorry, Chris.
trying to defend his subsidies. Shelby, you go ahead.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So corn got started being used because of the massive overflow of federal subsidies to help corn farmers, right? And because of trade barriers, on the other hand, sugar became a lot more expensive. So they went with the cheaper option. Yeah.
So actually, as you mentioned, high fructose corn syrup would not be financially viable were it not for the government subsidies of the corn industry. But because they produce so much of it, you have just an overwhelming amount of it. The issue you have with high fructose corn syrup is that, sugars, normal sugar, it's a balance between glucose and fructose, right? Your body can't process fructose as well as glucose. Basically, it strains your liver if you consume too much of it.
Allegedly.
No, this is science.
I think he's biased. You're
science.
Hawaiian, Josh, and cane sugar, a lot of cane sugar farms in Hawaii. Whereas
there might be.
folk from around
Forced onto them by the colonial power of the United States.
Well, they're getting
Hawaii was
now.
literally overthrown by the Dole Banana Company.
Well, okay.
As were a lot of countries, by the way.
What's your point? Finish.
My point is, this is going to hurt Nebraska.
Yeah, look at this man.
No, I agree though. It's true. But at the same time, if they were held up by subsidies, it's like, well, how long can a government subsidy last? What is it going to be, generations?
Well, let's put it this way.
What's next? They're coming for gasoline too?
No, we're letting the gas flow.
Actually, it's the opposite. They increased the ethanol content for gas to 15%.
Well, so here's the argument with the high fructose corn syrup versus sugar. If you actually look at it, sugar is not very good for you either. If you consume too much of it, it strains the liver just like high fructose corn syrup would. But high fructose corn syrup is a bit worse. The other argument, though, is because so much of it is GMO, that brings up the whole argument of GMO, whereas you can get organic cane sugar pretty easily. What the Coke company is saying, the Coca-Cola company is saying, and also what Pepsi is saying is they're providing the customers with options. And so it is up to the customers that if the market so demands an end to high fructose corn syrup and they want good old cane sugar, well, so speak the American people, and they're going to do it.
I can't wait for the black market to emerge, of like people saying, "I got the old Coke."
Yeah. You can buy like a jug of like high fructose corn syrup.
Now,
Make it in your bathtub.
Pretty soon, the Mexican Coca-Cola will be like our high fructose corn syrup version, and we'll do like a switch.
Hey,
All right,
there
I'll
you
just
go.
say to anyone watching at home, if you're on that Coke binge, I would recommend you get off of it, whether it's sugar or high fructose corn syrup. It's just not good for you. Like if the mile high agenda is really, well, I guess you can't have the government banning things, but if the goal is actually to get healthier, switching from one to the other won't achieve that effect. Coke Zero is the way to go.
Trump, maybe that's Trump's real goal. He's slowly bringing it in.
He's a Diet Coke man.
Yeah, he's a Diet Coke man.
He's a thought leader on the subject. Okay,
I can say if they ever bring back vanilla Coke or like cherry, they used to do like the different varieties.
They have cherry Coke.
No, the vanilla Coke.
Oh, vanilla Coke.
One.
The vanilla Coke was the drink of summer 2002. Ooh, that was
the height of Coca-Cola technology.
I agree.
Yeah, we've been on a downward slide ever since.
Okay, so they're removing the high fructose corn syrup from Coke. They're also removing mercury from flu shots.
Yeah, go figure, right? So the argument, and I've read RFK's writings about this and watched him talk about it, that the whole mercury in vaccines has been the big argument he has made that got him labeled as being anti-vax. He has repeatedly says, I am not anti-vax. I'm anti some vaccines. Right?
Well, hold on. That's part of the argument he made that got him labeled anti-vax. His argument is very broad and it's beyond just the mercury.
To be clear, he's written quite a lot about it. But the issue with the issue with mercury in vaccines is it's meant to create like a reaction from your immune system, and you need something toxic enough to elicit a reaction from your immune system. The problem with mercury is that the argument was, and I know it's contested, but the argument is it goes to your brain, it doesn't leave, and and some people would believe that that's a big problem.
I don't know. I have a different belief. I think thimerosal, there's two different types of mercury. There's like methyl mercury and ethyl mercury.
There's also a planet called Mercury.
There is also a
throw that out
planet.
there.
So there's the kind
Called
you can
mercury.
drink, and there's the kind you can't drink,
like
right?
in fish, for example.
yeah.
If you're going to have a tuna sandwich, you're going to get mercury in your can of tuna, especially if you're doing like white tuna, like albacore. There's a bit of mercury in there, but that is methyl mercury. That is a more toxic type. Then there's ethyl mercury, and that would be what thimerosal is made out of. And it is, I was doing like a comparison. I was asking my dad because he's a chemist, and he kind of figured that the vaccine, how much it has in it, is about half of your tuna sandwich.
But do you inject tuna sandwiches into your veins?
You do not, and that is a wonderful point. You do not. But my point is this.
And do you want to take the chance
But my point is
if
this.
it's in
No.
there anyway?
You're talking about an immune response, and there's a different way to look at this. So
Okay.
it's mostly added to most multi-dose vaccines. Yeah. It's not added, like, if you're going to get a single-dose flu shot, it's probably not in there. If you're getting, like, that's the big regulation now. They want to take it out of the flu shots. If they're doing a multi-dose, it's usually used to get rid of bacteria when they compound it.
Well, I guess they got to find something else.
They got to find something else. But the argument from some in the medical community is this is kind of unnecessary. It's used for multi-dose, and it's not really that toxic.
Yeah.
I mean, they stopped
But
filling
of course,
teeth with it
people
also.
don't. Yeah, of course, people don't want mercury
It's the ongoing debate
in their bodies.
The ongoing debate of what causes dementia, right? The old dementia cocktail. Yeah.
Well, even in the vote that they had in the committee, it was something only like 6% of the flu shots still use that ingredient, the mercury.
Oh, so they have other options then already.
There were other options.
And I guess RFK's point is, why would you give someone the mercury one when there's other alternatives?
Exactly.
And that is understandable.
I think RFK Jr.'s bigger concern is kids.
Yeah.
Because his argument was maybe an adult can take it, but you have an
Especially premature
overwhelming amount of toxicity being injected into kids during that whole time.
I mean,
I think that's his biggest concern, actually.
It is, and I also tend to agree with him because there's like, I feel like whether he's using science or he's vibing it out, I like to vibe things out, and I feel like even if you don't have the scientific studies for it, there's something going on, and the vibe is off. See, I think you need to get rid of the mercury, right?
If the
Right?
vibe is headaches, neurological issues, behavioral changes,
Not a good-
aggression, all
I don't want that
stuff,
vibe.
Stop eating tuna.
Even if that's just attributed to
eating
like,
tuna.
even if it's just attributed to high, like, you know, when you're taking in a large dose of this, right? It's like, do you still want a little dose of it, even if it may not cause the same harm? Like, do you want to take that risk? Do you want your kid to?
Well, I guess the question is like, look, if only 6% of the flu vaccines on the market use this particular ingredient, then they obviously have a formula that doesn't use that ingredient. So I guess the idea is just to funnel it in this direction. But do you know, like, besides flu shots, what about like all the other shots? Do they still use this mercury?
It's used when there's multiple things in the injection.
I see.
Primarily as an antibacterial agent.
So
So yeah, they'll, if they're giving you multiple shots, and there was some other regulation that came in a few years ago, and it was they tried to limit that. It made actually getting the vaccines more expensive because you couldn't get multiple just in one shot. You're going to get, you know, separate shots. So there's something there too.
All right. Well, as long as the monkeypox vaccines don't get too expensive, I'm fine. All right. I know exactly what you're thinking. That was a great clip you just watched. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to follow and also check out either these videos or maybe they're on this side. I don't know which side they're on, but we set it up. So these are the videos that YouTube is suggesting to you as the best ones that you'll probably like the most. So check them out, this side, and until next time.